Most FPS players who try Ready or Not think they're losing because of their aim. Usually they're not. After a lot of S-rank co-op runs, I noticed the real gap between an average team and a consistently good one has almost nothing to do with shooting. It's flow and decision making. And the mistakes that actually fail a run happen before anyone pulls a trigger. A doorway approached wrong, a hallway entered too fast, a teammate watching the wrong angle, a flash thrown a second too late. Small stuff, but Ready or Not punishes small mistakes harder than almost any other tactical shooter. So that's what this video is about. I studied real CQB material, watched professional room clearing breakdowns, tested what actually holds up inside the game, and used it to put together consistent flawless co-op runs. I wanted to share the parts of that process worth passing on. This isn't a beginner guide, a loadout guide, or another list of tips you've already seen. Gun tier lists, running the rabbit, free leaning in the middle of nowhere, how many shots to the head, math. It's a handful of lessons that changed how our team plays and honestly changed how much I enjoy this game. Something I noticed watching a lot of CQB content, a lot of players copy the movement without understanding the reason behind it. They slice the pie because someone told them to, they stack on doors because it looks tactical, they flash every room because that's what they've seen real operators do, without ever asking what problem the technique is actually solving. And most of us aren't playing with a trained 4-man element. We're playing with friends or randoms who've never cleared a room in their life with limited comms and incomplete information. So instead of tricks or cheese strats, this video is the mindset and habits that made our team feel organized and hard to fail, even when everything's going sideways. The biggest mindset shift for us was this: your goal isn't to win gunfights, it's to avoid the ones you don't need. That sounds obvious, but most players unconsciously optimize for speed and kills. First through the door, first to dump a mag, first to chase the suspect who bolted down the hallway. Every one of those instincts adds risk and turns your team's movement into a mess. Once we started chasing S-rank consistently, the question we asked changed. Instead of how fast can we clear this room, it became how do we clear this with the least risk possible. That one shift changes everything downstream. Instead of entering immediately, you gather information first. Instead of swinging wide, you isolate one angle at a time. Instead of chasing a fleeing suspect, you contain him. Instead of reacting to whatever happens, you control the tempo of the fight. Look at what actually fails most missions. A suspect executes a civilian, a trap triggers, a teammate gets caught in a crossfire, evidence gets missed because the sector was never secured. None of that is really an aiming problem, it's a control problem. Teams that consistently S-rank build control before contact, not after. If there's one lesson that immediately improved our survival rate, it's understanding what a doorway actually is. Most players treat it as just the entrance to a room. It isn't. A doorway is a choke point, the most obvious information checkpoint in the whole map. And doors themselves only give you concealment, not cover. If a suspect knows you're behind one, he can shoot straight through it. The mistake I see constantly is players treating the doorway as a place to fight from. They stop in the frame, lean left and right a few times, and try to solve the entire room from the threshold. That's exactly where the game punishes you. In Ready or Not, standing in a doorway usually means you're exposed to multiple unknown angles, while your team behind you has almost no room to maneuver. The longer you sit there, the more time the AI has to react before you do. You've probably heard the term fatal funnel before. The term doesn't matter as much as why it matters here. Stand in a doorway and you become predictable. Every suspect in the room knows exactly where you are, your teammates behind you lose visibility, and your movement options shrink to almost nothing. If the first operator goes down there, the second one is often trapped right behind him. One death becomes two. What fixed this for us was treating the threshold as a place you pass through, never a place you park. You either use it to gather information or you commit through it, never both at the same time. This is where a lot of teams get unnecessarily aggressive. Before opening a door, ask a few simple questions. Can I hear movement? Is it locked? Does the mirror show a suspect, a civilian, or a trap? How many unknown areas does this room actually have? The answer changes the entry. An empty room doesn't need the same aggression as one with 3 suspects in it. One habit worth stealing directly from real CQB: open doors and closed doors aren't the same problem. An open door already gives you partial information for free, so it's usually the safer, faster one to take. Closed door forces a pause. You don't know what's behind it. If you don't need to go through it right now, mark it and keep moving. You can always come back. A 5-second delay to actually understand a room is almost always cheaper than recovering from a bad entry, and the mirror gun exists specifically to buy you that certainty before you commit. Here's the rule that changed almost every room clear we did: commit or disengage. Never commit halfway. The most dangerous movement in Ready or Not is the half entry. You crack the door, expose a shoulder, spot a suspect, and freeze. Now you're visible, stationary, and unsupported. If you're going in, go in with a plan already assigned. First operator takes the immediate threat, second moves to the opposite side, third covers the deep angle, fourth handles rear security or compliance, everyone already knows where they're going before the door even opens. That's why coordinated teams look smooth. They're not reacting inside the room, they're executing a decision that was made outside it. One habit I had to unlearn completely was getting comfortable in a doorway. Watch enough failed clips and you'll see the same pattern. Someone stops in the threshold, the person behind them can't move, the room stays uncleared, and the whole team starts reacting instead of controlling. A doorway should be crossed, not occupied. Use it to gather information, use it to launch an entry, but never let it become home. The team that controls the room wins, the team that fights from the doorway usually doesn't. Once that clicked, the next problem got a lot more important. Not how you enter a room, but how you move through it without exposing every angle at once. That's the one angle rule. This is probably the lesson that made the biggest visual difference in our gameplay. Watch experienced teams and they rarely look rushed, but they also rarely look stuck. They're constantly moving and it still feels controlled because they're only exposing one new angle at a time. Most players do the opposite. They open a door and swing wide immediately, and suddenly they're exposed to the left corner, the right corner, the deep angle, a hallway, maybe another doorway behind all of it. 4 problems created at once, all of which now need to be solved with pure reaction speed. That's not room clearing, that's gambling. The one angle rule is simple. Every movement should reveal only one new threat area. Real CQB actually splits corners into 2 types, and it's a useful way to think about it in-game too. Some corners you can address from outside the room without fully committing. Clear those first since you can still bail if it goes wrong. Others you can only see once you're already standing inside with no way to back out. Treat those as the higher risk ones and commit to them deliberately, not by accident. So don't try to solve the whole room. Solve the next angle, then the next. When I enter from the left side of a doorway, my first priority is the immediate left corner. Once that's confirmed, I move to the next visible sector. I'm not trying to see everything. I'm trying to avoid seeing too much at once. It sounds slower. In practice, it's usually faster because every decision stays obvious instead of overwhelming. Ready or not is full of layered spaces. A room connects to another room that connects to a hallway, the hallway connects to another doorway. Expose all of that at once and the AI has multiple chances to surprise you. The one angle rule keeps that uncertainty contained and it makes communication dramatically easier. Instead of, I don't know where he is, you get left clear, deep right, doorway ahead. Everyone instantly knows what's still uncleared. The room turns into a sequence instead of chaos, something I didn't appreciate until later. The one angle rule isn't just protecting you, it's protecting your teammates. When everyone clears sectors progressively, people stop crossing in front of each other, stop blocking doorways, stop duplicating coverage. Each operator naturally takes a different slice of the room. That's why coordinated teams look like they're flowing through the map, not because they're faster, but because they're exposing less. And once we started moving this way, we ran into the next problem almost every co-op team has. Not movement, responsibility. Clearing a room is easy. Knowing who owns which angle is what actually keeps the team alive. The first 3 lessons were about controlling your own movement. This one's more about controlling your team. And it's probably the actual difference between a group of good players and a team that can S-rank any map consistently. Most co-op teams think they're covering each other, usually they're just covering the same thing. A suspect appears, 3 rifles snap onto him at once. Everyone's shouting, he gets arrested, and then someone gets shot from the doorway nobody was watching. I've seen this on almost every map. It's not bad aim, it's no ownership. The simplest way to think about it, every dangerous space in the room belongs to someone, at least until the room is secure. When we enter, we split responsibility immediately. Left side, right side, deep angle, connecting doorway, hallway, rear security. Once everyone has a job, something changes. People stop reacting to everything and start protecting their own slice of the room. That's what stability actually looks like. Why overlapping coverage so dangerous? A lot of players assume 2 people watching the same angle is safer. It feels safer. It usually isn't. If 2 operators are watching the left doorway in a room with 2 doorways, the right one goes completely unobserved, and that's exactly where a suspect will surprise you because nobody's looking. The problem was never that 2 people watched the same angle, it's that another angle had no owner at all. In this game, unowned space is dangerous space. Trust is a tactical skill. This was one of the hardest habits for me to learn. I used to rotate constantly. A suspect moved, I turned. A teammate fired, I turned again. It felt active. It was terrible because every unnecessary rotation opens a gap somewhere else. The best teams are surprisingly patient. If I own the hallway, I keep the hallway, even if a teammate is making an arrest across the room, even if shots are going off nearby. Unless I'm specifically needed elsewhere, my sector stays covered. Don't move because something happened. Only move when your responsibility changed and trust your teammate. The sentence that improved our teamwork more than anything else: hold your sector until someone takes it from you, not until the suspect is cuffed, not until it feels safe, not until you're bored, until another operator explicitly takes over that angle. This single habit killed most of our unnecessary movement, cut down friendly fire, and made communication way simpler. Instead of, I'm looking around, say, I have left, I have hallway, I have rear, short callouts that tell the whole team exactly what's protected and what isn't. And that's the actual goal of room clearing: not moving fast, not looking tactical, making sure every dangerous space is accounted for before the team moves again. If doorways are where teams die, hallways are where teams fall apart. A lot of us get careful right before entering a room, then relax the moment they step back into the hall. That's completely backwards. Hallways are a straight line with nowhere to duck into. Real CQB calls them bullet sponges for a reason, and the longer your team lingers in one, the worse the odds get. A suspect can appear from a side room, a civilian can run across your line of fire, a teammate can stop to grab evidence at the worst possible time. A hallway usually has the least cover and the most connected angles of anywhere on the map, which means your formation matters more here than your aim does. Here's the nuance worth being clear about. Hallways are dangerous doesn't mean walk through them slowly. It's almost the opposite. Real CQB teams pick up their footwork in hallways specifically because they're exposed. The goal is to spend as little total time as possible standing somewhere you can get shot from 3 directions. The slow, careful part happens at doorways and intersections, where you actually stop to gather information. The open stretch of hallway in between is where you want economy of movement, not hesitation. The most common mistake is what I'd call the hallway collapse. Everyone starts moving together, then someone slows down, someone else speeds up. Two people stop to peek a doorway while one keeps walking, and now the spacing is inconsistent. Treat every hallway as a series of controlled positions, not a single free-form stroll. One habit that improved our consistency a lot was maintaining spacing. The lead operator isn't trying to reach the end of the mission, he's trying to hold the next threat area. Push too far ahead and 3 things happen at once. He loses support, the second operator can't see his sector, and the team gets stretched across multiple danger zones. Our rule: the lead should never move so far that the second operator can't immediately back him up. The exact distance depends on the hallway, but the principle doesn't change. Support has to stay available. Notice the pattern: it always comes back to sector ownership. One of the most useful movement habits in co-op is leapfrogging. Picture 2 operators in a hallway. The rear one moves forward past the front one, who stays put and covers him. Once the moving operator reaches the next position, he stops and covers in turn, and now the other one moves. That way, the hallway is never fully uncovered and both operators are never moving at the same time. One protects movement, the other performs it, then they switch. This is especially useful in long corridors with side doors branching off. Once you start moving like this, the map starts to feel smaller. Not because there are fewer rooms, but because fewer angles are unknown at any given moment. And that naturally leads into the next lesson, because knowing where to move isn't enough. You also need to control how fast. Play slow is advice you'll hear constantly about this game, and I think it's incomplete. Playing slow isn't the goal, playing at the correct tempo is. A lot of teams confuse caution with hesitation. They crawl through every hallway, spend forever at every doorway, re-clear rooms that are already secure, and freeze up after every flashbang. That's not discipline, that's just inefficient. The best teams are constantly adjusting speed based on how much information they actually have. Slow down for the unknown, speed up for the known. When we have very little information, an unknown room, an intersection, a dark space, possible traps, we slow down. That's where we gather information, assign sectors, and build a plan. The goal there isn't speed, it's reducing uncertainty. But the moment we create an advantage, a flash goes off, a room's been mirrored, a sector's already covered, we accelerate immediately. Staying at one speed the entire time is the mistake. Move slowly during the entry itself and you're exposed longer than you need to be. Move fast during the planning phase and you create risk for no reason. It's the transitions between those phases that actually matter. After every room, we do a quick reset, usually just a few seconds. Weapons up, sectors confirmed, ammo checked if needed, evidence secured, rear covered, then we move again. A lot of mission failures happen because a team carries the chaos of one room straight into the next one. A suspect surrenders, everyone starts talking, someone reloads, someone else walks ahead, the formation dissolves, and then the next contact hits immediately. The reset is what breaks that chain. Tempo is a team decision, not a personal one. If one player is pushing aggressively while everyone else is being cautious, the formation stretches and support disappears. Before any major movement, everyone should be on the same page about the tempo. Deliberate, clear, dynamic entry, containment, reset. You don't need fancy callouts, just everyone moving at the same speed. There is mistake that looks like confidence. A lot of FPS players mistake confidence for tempo. They clear one room cleanly, then immediately push the next doorway, then the next hallway, then the next room, and the whole mission starts accelerating on its own. That's dangerous because it's no longer intentional, it's emotional. The best teams accelerate because they created an advantage, and slow down because information got incomplete. They're controlling the tempo, not being carried by it. To sum up, the rule that changed our consistency is move quickly through controlled space, move slowly through uncontrolled space. Controlled space is a room with sectors assigned and security confirmed. Uncontrolled space is anywhere the team can confidently account for every dangerous angle. That one distinction made our clears faster, safer, and a lot more consistent, because the goal was never to play slowly. It was to spend as little time as possible exposed to unknown danger. And the tool that buys you that advantage more than anything else is utility, specifically flashbangs. If one piece of gear changed our success rate the most, it's the flashbang, just not in the way most people think. A lot of players treat it as a panic button. They get surprised, throw a flash, and hope the problem goes away. That's not what it's for. A flashbang isn't a solution, it's a temporary advantage. And if you don't use that window correctly, you've just spent one of your most valuable resources for almost nothing. Everyone in the squad should answer a question. Before throwing a flash, ask what problem you're actually solving. Multiple suspects, poor visibility, a deep room with unknown corners, a doorway that forces a committed entry. If you can't answer that, you probably don't need it. Early on, we'd flash rooms just because they were rooms, and we'd run dry before the hardest part of the mission even started. The biggest improvement we made was understanding timing. A flash creates a short window where the room favors your team, and that window doesn't last. Wait a few seconds after it detonates, and the advantage is gone, the suspects recover, the room's dangerous again, and now you're entering somewhere that's already alerted. Tempo and utility are directly connected. A good flash gets immediately followed by a decisive entry. Not a discussion, not another peek, an entry. But remember, bad utility creates bad movement, something we noticed reviewing our own footage. Poorly used utility often causes more problems than it solves. Someone throws a flash, another teammate doesn't know it happened, a third is crossing the doorway at the same time. Now the room's being entered from two directions at once and sectors are a mess. The utility didn't fail, the coordination did. Utility should simplify the room for you, not complicate the team. When we almost never flash. This might be surprising, but there are plenty of situations where we deliberately skip the flash. A room we already understand well, a single visible suspect we can handle safely, a civilian-heavy room where confusion adds risk, a room where a teammate already has a strong angle. On bigger maps, one habit that helped a lot was thinking a step ahead. Instead of, do we need a flash for this room? We started asking what's coming after this one. Some maps stack a sequence of high-risk spaces, big open rooms connecting hallways, multiple suspects, and if you burn all your utility early, the back half of the mission gets brutally harder. Resource management is genuinely part of S-rank consistency. The goal is reducing the danger of the whole space: corners, furniture, dark areas, multiple entry points, unknown movement. The suspect is only one piece of that. A flash gives your team control of the space. That distinction made our clears more predictable, cut down unnecessary firefights, and kept our utility available for the moments it actually mattered. Because the strongest teams don't lean on flashbangs, they lean on information, sector ownership, and timing. Which brings us to communication. Not military radio communication, but the kind that actually works in a chaotic 4-player co-op session. Most of our friendly fire incidents came from one simple thing: movement that wasn't announced. Someone crosses a doorway without warnings, someone rotates behind another operator, someone pushes into a hallway a teammate's already covering. The fix is simple: any movement that changes your sector gets called crossing left, taking hallway, coming through. Code blue. A few words, 1 second, huge reduction in confusion. Most teams don't actually have a communication problem, they have an information problem. People are talking constantly, but almost none of it helps the team make a better decision. The point of communication isn't to describe everything, it's to make your teammates think less. Information has a priority. The biggest improvement we made was giving information an order: threats first, movement second, status last. Threats sound like suspect left, civilian right, door open behind us. Everyone instantly knows what matters. Movement is crossing, pushing, and falling back in. It stops people from blocking each other or abandoning a sector without warning. Status, reloading, cuffing, collecting evidence is useful, but it never outranks an immediate threat. Since sector ownership was already established, that was enough. Everyone already knew the room and their own job. The callout just had to name the problem. Try to call what others can see. That is the priority. Probably the single most useful rule here: call information your teammates don't already have. If everyone's already looking at the suspect, you don't need 3 people yelling suspect. Communication should add information, not repeat it. Although we have to remember that silence is a skill too. A lot of people get uncomfortable with silence and fill it. Good teams are usually quieter than you'd expect because unnecessary talking adds cognitive load. You're already clearing angles, listening for footsteps, tracking teammate positions, managing compliance. Add 3 people talking nonstop and your brain starts filtering information it doesn't need to. Silence lets the important stuff stand out. During a breach, one person should usually be driving the call, not because he's the leader, but because simultaneous decision making is slow. Flashing, go, hold, cross. Simple, immediate commands. Clear the room, then discuss the next step afterward. Trying to negotiate a plan while standing in a doorway is one of the easiest ways to lose momentum. One of our biggest early mistakes was assuming the fight was over the second a suspect put his hands up. Some of the most dangerous moments in this game happen right after a surrender, because that's when people relax, weapons come down, people start moving, someone rushes to cuff, someone turns away from their sector, and a room that was under control suddenly isn't anymore. A surrender changes one thing: it doesn't automatically secure the room. The rule we eventually made automatic: security before custody. Before anyone moves in to arrest, we ask one question: are all the dangerous angles currently covered? If not, nobody cuffs yet. One operator holds lethal coverage on the suspect while the others keep clearing or holding sectors. Only once the room is actually secure does someone step forward. This one habit cut out a huge number of unnecessary deaths for us. Knowing that the suspect isn't your only problem is crucial. This matters even more on maps with connected rooms and long hallways. A compliant suspect pulls everyone's attention naturally, but the real threat is usually the doorway behind him, or the room next to him, or the hallway your team stopped watching. The suspect is visible. The actual danger usually isn't. One designated cuff operator is ideal, but simply just say you need help cuffing someone. The following operators will handle the situation is a simpler option. Something that helped a lot was killing the everyone rushes into cuff instinct. When a suspect surrendered, one operator handled custody while the others held their sectors. Another common mistake is crowding a compliant suspect immediately. It costs reaction time, blocks teammates' movement, and often exposes people to extra angles they weren't watching. A little distance buys options. Hold your position, keep visibility, keep your sector, then close the distance once the arrest is actually happening. Cuffing means one operator temporarily loses his weapon coverage, so the rest of the team has to compensate. If I'm cuffing, I'm not providing security anymore. Someone else needs to own my sector. Same principle as always. Responsibility doesn't disappear during an arrest, it just shifts. Evidence can wait. This is probably the easiest S-rank habit to build. Don't collect evidence during an unsecured phase. I know it's tempting, the weapon's right there, the room looks clear, the next area is just a few meters away. But grabbing it pulls your attention off security, and this game punishes distraction hard. We started treating evidence exactly like an arrest. It happens after security is established, not during it. One lesson that completely changed how we handle fleeing suspects: don't chase unless the chase is genuinely safer than containing him. When a suspect bolts into an uncleared area, most players instinctively follow straight into unknown angles, possibly unknown suspects with no sectors prepared. We started containing the escape route instead. Hold the doorway, cover the hallway, reposition, and force the next engagement to happen on our terms. Chasing usually increases uncertainty, containment usually reduces it. So, to sum up, the rule that made arrest effortless: a surrender creates a task, not an opportunity. The task is to secure, arrest, and hold control. It's not a signal to relax, loot evidence, or break formation. The best arrests are the least dramatic ones. One operator covers, one cuffs, everyone else keeps the room secure. The goal was never just making a suspect surrender, it was keeping the whole situation under control from first contact to final arrest. Which leads to one of the most overlooked parts of high-level play: the last stretch of the mission. The last lesson is simple. The end of the mission is often the hardest part. Most experienced teams actually become more careful near the end because nobody wants to restart a 20-minute run. The real problem is that the team is usually weaker than it was at the start. By the final room, someone may be injured, the shield might be damaged and blocking vision, utility may be gone, and ammunition may be running low. At the same time, the last objective is often a large room with multiple angles, multiple entry points, and several suspects holding deep positions. That combination makes the final clearance one of the most dangerous moments in the mission. Treat the last room exactly like the first one. Slow down, coordinate the breach, and use whatever resources you have left deliberately. A clean run can still fail in the final 30 seconds, and that's why the mission isn't over until the team is safely extracting. One thing that genuinely makes me happy is seeing more and more people getting into Ready or Not and actually enjoying this game. The recent DLCs have been fantastic, especially Boiling Point, and it feels like the game is in a really good place right now. I also want to be clear about one thing. My team isn't a professional team or anything like that. We're just a group of friends who've been playing together for a long time and have slowly learned how each other thinks. Most of what I shared in this video came from making mistakes together, restarting missions together, and gradually getting better together. Playing solo with the AI operators can absolutely be fun, but finding a team that genuinely enjoys CQB, room clearing, and working through difficult missions together is a completely different experience. There's a kind of teamwork and bonding that comes from those 20-minute runs where everyone is communicating, covering each other, and trying not to throw the run at the last room. That's the feeling I keep coming back to. When Ready or Not is played with discipline and trust, it creates something that I honestly haven't found in any other shooter. I really hope this video helps some of you enjoy the game a little more, whether you're playing solo, with randoms, or with a group of friends. If even one tip from this video makes your next run smoother or makes the game click for you, then it was worth making. Thanks for watching, and I hope I'll see you in the next run.